So a few days ago, while I discussed about my struggles of reading on my IGTV videos, somebody had the audacity to send this message to me discussing how discouraging and unexpected it was of me to talk about the struggles of reading. Obviously, I didn't know that. I was supposed to be this person who is perfect, who reads all the time, who can read even while she's working, who can read while she's tensed, and who is the role model over here. I obviously didn't know that. And I was told that in a very crass manner via a comment. And normally, number one thing I do these days is to ignore such comments. But I feel like the issue is something that I cannot ignore, and hence I'm here today to discuss this in this video. Hi there, I am Manpreet. I make book related videos on this channel. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe for books recommendations, bookish discussions, and let's get started with this video. And before we proceed, please consider subscribing to my channel for more bookish discussions. So we all know we are going through a rough time at this moment. Most of us are inside our homes, and it's a privilege really that we at this moment can discuss this while a lot of people are dying, most out of hunger and poverty than COVID-19 in India. And it is truly a privilege to be discussing this. But I believe just because it's a discussion possible because of our privilege doesn't make it any less relevant. So yes, if you are unable to pick something or finish a book or even put your mind to reading, it is relevant. And you are not misusing your privilege or being selfish if you are going through this and if you want to discuss about it or if you want to share your feelings about it. See, this is the biggest bane of social media. We see these influencers all the time where we see them in their perfect attires, we see them perfect all the time, and we never get to see the struggles they are going through. We always see the content they have produced, but we never see what it took to produce that content. Sometimes it may not even be real. Sometimes that influencer who is seeming to have a perfect life could have the most painful situation going on, or sometimes that influencer might be faking it. There are several examples out there of people faking a different life than they have. And the fact that the audience has begun to expect that perfection out of influencers is the actual worrisome part. The fact that you believe that somebody's life could be that perfect, the fact that you believe that the behind the scenes are no different than what you're seeing on your phone screens is what worries me a lot. So when I get a comment about somebody being offended because I shared the real thing, it really made me start this rant video. It's also about the business side of this influencer world. Just in the morning, I saw this conversation going on the Twitter about this influencer talking about the real stuff, talking about how they needed to make money and talking about their business side, and people getting offended out of it. People were getting offended because this influencer talked about the real thing. This influencer talked about the business side of it. And the worst part in this situation is people believe the ones that don't. You, even as my viewer, would actually prefer watching somebody who would not disclose any sponsorship, who would not disclose that they are being paid and would accept it. But it will take you a while to accept that I am being sponsored or somebody is being sponsored. I don't blame anybody for that. I feel like that is human nature. It is in the human nature to be jealous. It is in the human nature to feel like, you know what, this seems like an easy job. They are just sitting in front of a camera and talking. So how dare they earn more than me or even earn at all from this thing while I'm watching them for free? So those feelings of despise just arise. And trust me, just like it takes a certain level of strength of character to be a kind person, it takes a certain level of strength of character and a lot of hard work to not be jealous. So yes, I accept that, and I really admire the people who try their best to not be that way, who try their best to support their favorite creators, and who try their best to never be jealous of anybody in their lives. It arises. This is an emotion, it's not something which you have created yourself. This emotion has always existed, and you just are trying your best to stay away from this emotion, control it so that you don't harm somebody with your thoughts or your actions. The thing is, the social media is changing us. It is changing us to expect something we are not. It is changing us to expect something that's not possible. A perfect life is not possible. A perfect reader doesn't exist. I am very apologetic to you if it offends you that I am not being a perfect reader. I am very apologetic if it offends you that I am not reading hundreds of books every year. I am very apologetic if it offends you that I am not recommending new books all the time. I mean, how do you even recommend new books all the time when you are not reading new books all the time? And how can you read new books all the time if you have other jobs, if you have a life to live, if you have work to do? I mean, even if it was a person's job to read books 24/7, it's impossible to do that in practicality. Nobody works for 24/7, right? Now you must be wondering, Manpreet, what's the point of this rant video? First of all, there is never a point to a rant video. It's called a rant video because there's no point. But secondly, I do want you to realize that if you are going through these feelings, if you haven't been able to finish a book, or if you haven't been able to read like you used to, if your page count is lower than before, trust me, it is okay. We as a world is going through a rough time. We are going through a pandemic, and something which even some of the first world country leaders believed would never happen. So we are going through a tough time. We are going through a stressful time, and it's okay if you're not giving your best at this time. I'm not talking just about books, I'm talking about your work. It's okay if you're not being as productive as you have wanted to be, as you always are. It is okay. And I want you to know that if anybody out there is making you feel like it is not okay, you need to cut those people out of your life. At this point, at least, with everything that is going on, with the stress and with the worrisome news all the time, you can't be expected to be perfect. And who is perfect anyway? But at the same time, I would encourage you to read. I would encourage you to try and read. The point is about trying. Why do I want you to try and read? It is because when you're watching the news cycle every day, when you're watching the worrisome news every day, you are not doing good to yourself. Staying updated is different than endlessly consuming the news. So yes, stay updated, but put your mind on other things. It could be any hobby that exercises your creative muscles. You could go for gardening, knitting, drawing, painting, and whatnot. There are endless hobbies out there, and there are a lot of them you can do at home. At the same time, I feel like reading books for me is a way of an escape. If I'm reading a fiction book, I am really lost in the world of that book and really consumed in that world, which allows me to take my mind off the things I'm worrying about, which is why I personally love reading. At the same time, I would like you to try to cut down on how much TV you watch. A lot of people ask me, Manpreet, why do you prefer books to TV? Why not watch the TV shows? Especially when there are streaming services like Netflix that are pretty much adapting every single book into a movie. Why do you still want to read books? They take more time, don't they? They take an effort. You have to read. Reading is not just something like, watching TV. Reading actually is way more difficult than switching on a channel or opening up Netflix and watching TV. Then why do you want us to do that in these difficult times? To stimulate your mind, to actually give you a break. Have you ever seen TV and binge watched some shows and then felt exhausted in your brain? Have you ever had that feeling? Now, count the number of hours you spent on binge watching that TV serial and try to read a book for that long time. And if you do it, take notes at the end of both the activities and then compare your state of mind. Do you feel as exhausted? My experience tells me you will not feel exhausted at all. In fact, you will feel rejuvenated. You will feel fresh. You will feel exhilarated. Because that's what reading does to you. It stimulates your mind, it gives you an escape, it inspires you, it motivates you, and it makes you happy. Even if you have read a book that has led you into tears, it is still going to be a fulfilling experience. And that is why, guys, I want you to read books and try to cut down on the TV. But still, understand that it is okay to not read. It is okay to not read as much you have done before. It is okay to not read the books you have always read or you want to read. Right now, you need to be reading the books you want to read right now. Maybe you have always been the non-fiction kind of person who has always read the books that help in your self-development process, and right now, the deepest corner of your heart wants to read a rom-com. Go and pick it up. Maybe you have always talked about hating fantasy novels and now you want to pick one up. Go and pick it up. Don't limit yourself to reading the books that were already in your agenda or that you have always wanted to read. At this moment, read what you want to read right now. Chances are it's very different than what you have always planned. chances are it's very different than what you have always expected yourself to read. And that is okay. It is really okay to not read what you have always wanted. At the same time, I feel like this societal pressure also makes you want to pick up different kind of books. It makes you want to pick up the difficult books while you want to stay away from the Chetan Bhagat kind. It makes you feel bad about picking up a certain genre while that is what you want to read. You need to stop letting yourself feel bad about that. You need to start doing what makes you happy. And you need to start accepting that it is not a normal time and it is okay to not read. It is okay to not be the happiest person in the world right now, or it is okay to not be the most productive person. If you're just being different and just in this time, understand that it is okay. And anybody who tries to tell you that it is not okay, you need to ignore that person. Just like I ignored that text about Manpreet, you are such a disappointment. It's fine. I can't, nobody can, even God, the things that may or may not exist, cannot make everybody happy. So that is the truth of the life. And yes, with this, I would like to end my rant video. Basically, there were 3 points. If you are like, Manpreet, this was all over the place. Rant videos are usually all over the place, but still, 3 takeaways from this video should be: social media is not real. A lot of things that happen on social media have a very different backstory. So if social media is making you feel restless or negative or unmotivated, understand that what you're seeing is not real. Secondly, try to read books as much as possible because they stimulate your mind. They are the only way out of this worrisome situation where you are worried, everybody is worried. And thirdly, you cannot make everybody happy. So no matter what you will do, understand that there are going to be a few people who would be unhappy with what you do, and that is okay. That is how we live our life, okay? So yeah, these were my 3 takeaways, and this was a very different kind of video on this channel because normally I like to stick to the point and talk about my recommendations, talk about my book reviews and stuff like that. But I hope you enjoyed watching this video anyway. If you did, please make sure you hit a thumbs up. Follow me on my social media, especially on my Instagram, for more real-time updates. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, please make sure you subscribe, follow me on my social media. I'm repeating it again. And yes, thank you so much for watching this. This is Manvi signing off. I'll be back with another video very soon.